I'm Mike Shrews,
And I'm Tivis,
and you're listening to
the Munster Cast.
episode 42. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Munster Cast, the podcast where we watch and talk about the Munsters. I am, of course, Mike Shrews, here with my co-host and friend Tivis. Tivis, how you doing today, my man?
I'm a little tired, but that's all right.
I think we're all a little bit tired.
I had some overtime this week, so I didn't get a lot of sleep, but it's
Yeah.
all right.
Awesome, man. Well, real quick, guys, before we dive into this episode, let's do some dirty work. You can find the Munstercast at themunstercast.com, and there you get to see all of our stuff, videos, audio, any what do they call it? Articles that we do. You can check out reviews. You can leave reviews on the website. You can leave us voicemails through clicking the little mic icon on the right hand side of the screen on the monstercast.com. And you can also what's the other thing I'm thinking of? Shit. Oh, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember what the other thing was I was going to say. Anyways, you can also go to themonstercast.com/merch and get one of those
cut
wonderful.
this down and make it shorter this week, but I'm gonna forget what I'm gonna talk about.
Yeah, I know. You can also go to monstercast.com/merch and get one of the awesome shirts that Tivis is wearing and that I wore last week. And then you can also go to patreon.com/themonstercast and join us there if you want to join in a little bit of extra stuff with us. No extra content though. And then, of course, always go over to your podcast service of choice and leave us a star review and or a written review as well. It definitely helps the podcast out, and just sharing us as well, guys.
Yeah, tell a friend.
Definitely tell a friend. And then if you guys want to, you can also swing on over and check out our other show, Operation Babel, which should be coming back shortly, which is just a straight up pop culture podcast out there, guys.
Yeah. Mike has plans. We'll see.
We're getting there. All right, so this week we're diving on into what, Tivis?
Munsters Revenge.
Awesome.
Let me get rid of my voice wave here. Yeah, Munsters Revenge, the second movie, aired February 27th, 1981. Formatted by Alan Burns and Chris Hayward, who have worked on pretty much everything Munsters related.
Mhm.
The characters by Nora Benedict Haas, and written by Arthur Alsby and Don Nelson, who also wrote many Munsters. Directed by Don Weis. Now, he played himself once in the Jack Benny program. He has produced 2 episodes of the Schlitz Playhouse, 1 episode of Dick Cavett Show, and the 1965 movie Billy. Other shows that he has directed include 9 episodes of the Andy Griffith Show, 4 of Batman, 7 of Starsky and Hutch, 16 of MASH, 9 of Chips, 22 of Fantasy Island, and 7 of The Love Boat.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that's just the ones that I recognize.
He stayed busy. Nice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The cast include Fred, Yvonne, and Al, all returning. Al being credited as Grandpa Dracula this time.
Right.
Not Grandpa Munster. We have Casey Martel as Eddie Munster. His first role was a character called Ted in the 75 Wonder Woman.
Okay.
He played Marvin in 8 episodes, in 8 is Enough, which ran from 77 to 81. He was only in 70 episodes from 79 to 80. He was Greg in E.T. the Extraterrestrial. And many people will probably know him as Eddie from Growing Pains. Joe McDonnell as Marilyn Munster.
A good Marilyn.
Yeah. I honestly thought she played what's her name from the family show? with the kids.
What?
Marsha. She looked like
Oh,
she
the
could have been a
Brady
Marsha.
Bunch?
Yeah.
No. That's the next movie.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying she looked like she could have been a Marsha.
Oh, definitely, yeah. The way she plays it too. Yeah.
Bob Hastings as Phantom of the Opera, who many will remember, who alternated with Mel Blanc voicing the Raven uncredited for the original show.
Yep.
Peter Fox as Glenn Boyle, Herbert Volan as Police Chief Henry Boyle. Now, he unfortunately passed away 2 months after this movie released. But he was Air Controller Marcius in Airplane. General Crandell Clayton in MASH. And played Henry Masterson in Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, which ran from 69 to 70.
Okay.
Charles Macaulay. Let's see.
Is this going to be another 10 minutes? Another
Yes.
10 minutes, people? I'm sorry.
Charles Macaulay as police commissioner.
Yeah.
He was in 2 episodes of the original Star Trek. And he also played Dracula in a film.
I think we broke Tivis this week. He's just like in a film.
Look, you can edit this out. Fuck it. If we can't mention it or not, he was Dracula in the movie Blackula.
Okay, it's a good film.
I'm talking to you with chat. You're ignoring it.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
chat producer. We got Colby Chester as Michael, Joseph Ruskin as Paulo. Is that, I don't know. He was also an episode of Star Trek, returned for 3 episodes of Deep Space Nine, and an episode of Voyager. I'm not going to mention which ones because we're speeding through this as Mike wished. Sid Cesaro as Dr. Dusty Diablo.
And if people don't recognize him, he's the coach from Grease and Grease 2, by the way.
Yeah.
I was watching and I was like, I've seen him somewhere. Where the hell have I seen him? And then it popped in my head. I was like, oh, yeah. It's Coach Calhoun from Grease. Clearly, Tivis isn't a musical fan.
I will openly tell you I'm not. So,
give us a Munsters musical. We need it now.
Howard Morris as Igor, who voiced Bogle in The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Ezra Stone as Dr. Lichlighter. Now, does that name sound familiar to you?
No.
It should. He directed 27 episodes of the original show.
What name?
Ezra Stone.
Oh, Ezra Stone. I thought you said Lichlighter. I was like thinking that name. I was like, no, doesn't sound familiar.
Also a show that I missed all 27 of those times. I don't know how, but it came into my orbit like in the past week. He directed 3 episodes of this show called The Flying Nun.
That sounds awesome. I'm going to watch that show now.
All right. Speeding through the rest of these, we got Michael McManus as Ralph, Sandy Alexander Champion as Patrolman Pete. Sorry, I almost said Petrol. Gary Vincent as Patrolman Larry, Billy Sands as Shorty, Warren Thurston as Barry Pearl, Al White as Prisoner.
Yeah.
Tom Newman as Slim, Anita Dangler as Elvira, Doris Mann as Mrs. Fernstrom, Hillary Horn as the girl, who, if anyone recognizes her, it's because she played like a ton of various women in 37 episodes of Happy Days. We got Kenny Rhodes as the boy, who will be returning for an episode of Munsters today. Reed Morgan as Loader number 2, Mickey Deems as Loader number 1, Lou Richards uncredited as boyfriend, and Tom Willett uncredited as a Halloween guest.
Okay.
Was that quick enough for you?
No, that wasn't quick enough. I do want to go back
Want me
though.
to do it again?
To you mentioned Blackula. It is a great it's a blaxploitation film if people don't know about it, directed by William Crane, I believe. And it's actually pretty good film for the
I thought so,
blaxploitation
but
era. And then I think they tried to do like a sequel or a sequel series or something like that, like a year later. Let me see. No, it was an actual straight up sequel of the film. Scream Blackula Scream is what the sequel is. I never watched that one. And then Tivis also mentioned the Flying Nun show, and I had to look this one up real quick, guys. I apologize. Sally Fields is in it, man. She stars in this. For people who don't know, that's also like, what's the basic one that most people would recognize her from? Miss Doubtfire, the mom from Miss Doubtfire. But I want to read the description of this movie. The Flying Nun is an American sitcom about a community of nuns, which included one who could fly when the wind caught her cornet. And now I want to take a week away from the Munsters and watch that show and talk about it on here.
could you cut out where I just dump Mountain Dew down my front?
No,
Damn it.
but yeah. So that's the Flying Nun is definitely a show that I'm going to try and find and watch now. Thank you for that, Tivis.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And as far as anything else goes with it, I also did forget to mention you can watch our pretty ugly faces on YouTube at the Munstercast YouTube channel, guys. And you can find us on all other social media platforms via the Munstercast. With that,
You can watch me dump Mountain Dew down my shirt
yeah,
and then disappear while Mike's talking to clean myself up.
you need to put icon picture, by the way, so it's not just blank.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I noticed that last week.
let's dive on into The Munsters Revenge, airing February 27th, 1981. Tivis, I don't have a synopsis for this. Let me try and see if I got one on IMDb here. Here we go. When the owner of a wax museum attempts to frame Herman and Grandpa Munster for pulling a jewelry heist, they must both prove their innocence and find out who the true thieves are. Dun dun dun. What is that loud noise? Is that me? Yep, that's me. Anyways, so like we did last week, guys, we're just going to talk about the film. We're not going to break it down scene by scene, shot by shot. This one was a made-for-TV film, and
The
I
first of
definitely
many.
recommend people go and watch this. It's not necessarily you need to have seen it before we talk about it, but it's a fun watch, I guess. Interesting, I will say. And Tivis did mention something in the opening here about the writers. They did write Mini Munsters.
Yes.
You can tell.
Oh, yes. There we go. Now I can read my notes that are on my phone.
So the film, Tivis, when the film started, they started with their, the credits going over the picture and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This reminded me straight up. I mean, it is an 81 movie. It just reminded me of an 80s film instantly. Just with that intro, I was like, yep, this is it. This is an 80s film.
I love that the first shot of the family we get is they're going through the torture area or horror area of the wax museum, and they're like, let's get some ideas for the house.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that makes sense. I feel the same way every time I walk into a spirit.
Getting something for the house.
Oh yeah, how could you not?
Right. Yeah, I guess so. Go on.
I was gonna say, why do you think the family has wax figures in that museum? Like, do you think that this so much time has passed that the whole town finally knows who they are, and they're like, hey, remember those freaks that live in this town? Yeah, they're in our horror.
I'm not sure. I don't understand why they're there, because they're set up as an actual family too. It's not just lookalikes, because like that Eddie literally looks like that Eddie there, and they have them all bunched together anyways. So you can't even just say, oh, it's just the monsters. No, it's literally the family of the Munsters.
Are
Um,
you glad they didn't do a joke about replacing Eddie?
yeah, yeah.
Because they could have
I,
had the wax figure look like Butch.
I
Him
yeah.
complain about how it doesn't resemble him.
I do want to say, like, okay, so when they first open up the movie, they're in the wax museum walking through. It's called the something of terror or some shit like that, of
Yeah, something
horrors or
like that.
something. There's a wax museum. I think it's in St. Augustine, Florida. It's a small wax museum. It's really cool. They have a bunch of different stuff, but they actually have a room that's cornered off that is like a horror-esque room where, like, they have some of the same looking things in there, like the people hanging in the torture devices and stuff. They have Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street, but they also had Herman, and I got a photo with him. I'm going to share it in the video here real quick, so people watching the video can see me with Herman. And this just reminded me of that when I saw it. If you're watching the video, I have my mask on because it was COVID times when we went. So yeah, so I got to meet Herman Munster there, man. It's pretty sweet.
He's actually trying to rob the place. Don't let him fool you.
Who, me? Yeah. Definitely.
We
Definitely.
were planning the show at the time, and he wanted a background piece. Yeah, I actually was. I have this written in my notes. I was going to ask you, did you feel attacked when they said what kind of weirdos want to come stare at wax statues?
Yeah. Yeah, it was cuz those are the people that run the place. I'm like, what kind of weirdos want to come and, stare at the wax figures? I'm like, why not? What do you mean? They're really cool. There's a lot of artistic work that goes into that shit, man.
Yeah, I don't know if I would ever go to a wax museum, but I can definitely appreciate the amount of work that they put into them. So
Mm.
I will never make fun of anyone who goes.
When we went, the one that we went to, like they actually build wax sculpts there too. Like in person, they have like a little area and stuff, and you get to see like the presets of like some of the presidents' heads and stuff like that. I think they were making like an Obama head or something when we were there, and so you get like the
Were they
eyes.
walloping it with a mallet like
No, no,
Lily?
no. The head was like kind of formed already, but the eyes were like in it, but it wasn't like painted or nothing. It just looked weird. It just looked. I probably have a picture somewhere of some of that stuff, but they even had like an Arnold sculpt head, just the head of him, and several celebrities, and some of them are just their face molds and stuff like that. So there's pretty interesting things that you can see at some of these wax museums, especially the ones that make the stuff there,
Yeah.
and don't just have it imported in like some probably do, some of the bigger ones. But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool to see. I was like, oh, it's a wax museum, because I've never seen this movie at all. Um, and they opened up with the wax museum. I was like, awesome. But then what do they do after the wax museum closes, Tivis?
Uh, well, I have in my notes that uh, my exact words are "fuck, they're autons," because the wax figures start moving. But no, they're just robots.
Yeah, yeah.
For anyone who doesn't watch Doctor Who, you're not going to get that reference, Mike.
Look, I saw the people in the masks, and I was like, those things are moving. Eventually, they're moving. I didn't know if they were gonna like run away scared from seeing the monsters, or what. Like we'd seen previously with the caveman and stuff. I think it was, no, not the caveman, the ape. I'm sorry, in the museum
Oh,
episode.
I I really, before we get too far away from it, I really did enjoy the bit with the family. They're like they're standing there next to their figures not moving, and all of a sudden he's like, "Can you take our picture?" Like, they
Yeah,
freak out and run.
yeah. I think who did that? Some like celebrities do that all the time. They'll go to like some of the bigger wax museums,
I think
and
Ozzy has definitely done it. I feel like there's no way he hasn't.
I mean, he looks like a wax thing.
In fact, I'm pretty sure I remember a video where he does it for. It was a stunt for a new album.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I know Johnny Depp did it, like, well, not for Wax Museum, but for like the Disney Pirates of the Caribbean ride. He like
Yeah.
pretended to be an animatronic, and people just didn't know, and he was like literally interacting with them personally. He's like, they just saw that was a good animatronic.
Oh, that's that since I don't know when this started, if it started with him or not, but if you go right now to the Pirates of the Caribbean, you will notice more animatronics than normal. That's because many of them are actually cast members.
It's probably
And
cheaper.
I really want to go to one of these places for a Halloween event one year, especially Horror Nights. That looks so fun.
Yeah.
But we're getting back off topic.
Yep.
So the robots.
Yeah, so
The
they have
robots.
robots. They're I don't know how the wax figures are robots with a little mechanism on their back, but apparently they are. I was thinking maybe it was like a night museum thing at first until like he pulled out a remote.
Yeah.
Which oh no, that's different. I was trying to remember what the premise of Night at the Museum was, but they were just trying to stay youthful, right?
Yeah. I don't understand their plan. First off, to test these machines, because they send them out to terrorize the neighborhood and steal things.
Yeah.
Like Herman steals uniform and Grandpa steals a car, which, by the way, do these robots have personalities? Because absolutely it feels like Herman would turn around and start looking through someone's clothes after coming out of the closet, and then Grandpa would just walk up and scare some teenagers out of a car just for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, go ahead. You got something to do?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was very reminiscent of like stuff that you would see in what was it that I was thinking of? Because you just see the robots just running around the town. Like Ninja Turtles, the second one, when Tokan Razor are just destroying the town. They just send them out for no reason whatsoever but to cause chaos. So these robots, like you said, I just didn't understand what they're trying to do at the first one, unless that was the robots going like all quirky on them, because they said they were having issues with some of them. So I wasn't sure if that was the issue or not.
They definitely sent them for those outfits in the car, because they mentioned that later in the movie. But
because they need the runaway car.
I don't know what the rest of that, because like we saw, they had the creature from the Black Lagoon there, Uncle Gilbert, and Lester, the werewolf, was in there. But we didn't really see them doing anything else. And we go to the family's house, and the Raven is there first off.
Yep, they brought Charlie the Raven back.
Yep,
which is awesome.
And I didn't like this new version of him. It was clearly like a sock puppet.
Yeah. Did you catch though? Because you said these people wrote the mini Munsters.
Oh, Herman playing chess with Spot. Oh, yeah.
Throwback to Herman playing chess with Spot, which if anybody didn't watch,
and losing.
Yeah, and he's losing. It's like literally a recreation of what they shot for the longer version of it, of Mini Munsters. Sorry, guys. And then I just that made me happy, because it's not just a callback to the show, but a callback to something they already just did. Because
that was like a decade before this.
73, I believe, was the Mini Munsters, and so they took from elements that they set up in the cartoon. I was starting to wonder if this episode was actually written as a cartoon episode, and then they're like, "Oh, here's a budget, go shoot it live action."
I could believe it. I could believe any episode of the Munsters was written for a cartoon, honestly. I've said that many times. It feels like a live action cartoon.
Yeah. Which we saw in the last movie with Munsters Go Home, because that was literally a Scooby-Doo episode.
Yeah.
Or a Scooby-Doo just ripped off them, one of the
two. Yeah. But in the house, before the cops bust in, because I feel like everyone by now knows the Munsters in this town. They're like a bunch of freaks attacking people. We know exactly where to go. But before that happens, we're introduced. They start singing, I believe, and we're introduced to a new member of the family
Yep.
that everyone else hates.
And they call him Cousin Phantom of the
Phantom.
Opera. they don't give him a name. He's just Cousin Phantom of the Opera. It's like, okay. Because I believe the Phantom of the Opera actually had a real name too.
I'm sure he does. Well, we don't have Uncle Creature of the Black Lagoon. We got Gilbert.
Yeah.
Brother Wolfman. No, it's Lester.
Yeah, it's Eric. Eric is the name of the Phantom of the Opera.
They couldn't even be bothered to give him any name. It's just Cousin Phantom.
Yeah.
Or if you're Marilyn, Uncle Phantom.
Uncle Phantom, yeah. Or later on, Herman just says, "Go get Phantom," and it's like, what? They did a pretty decent job though with his makeup to make him look like the original Phantom of the Opera.
Mm.
I will say that. That was pretty cool.
I got stuff about that in my.
It looks horrible, but it was cool to be like original.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like when the cops bust in there after all that, it's like I get the sense that this town, it's no longer, oh my God, what is that? It's, oh yeah, it's those weirdos in that old house.
Yeah. It's and the thing is too with this, we don't know how far out this is supposed to be from the show or the last movie because Eddie's still a little kid. I mean, we can assume he's a few years older, but
I'm going to go ahead and say one of my trivia things here.
Okay.
Did you notice the exterior of the house?
Mm-hmm.
It was recycled from the last movie. They still have the words England or bust on their car. So I think even though that was, to save money, we can say that it wasn't long after that trip.
So like if you're watching the video, the same image we used last week, I just popped up behind us. They use this, but they actually crop it out a little bit so you can't see it, the words. At least when I was watching, I didn't see the words on the car. You can only see like the top of the car and the house. But it was this exact image. And then later on, they do a shot at nighttime, which was like the beginning of the last movie. When it was raining and stuff or storming or whatnot. That's all it was. It was just a recycled footage because clearly after 10 years, they just, changed the aesthetic of the house and everything.
Oh, okay.
That's probably why because they told them, you have only like a month, 18 days to a month to do the last movie, the 66 movie. And I assumed
I didn't get that for this one.
Right. Well, no, I'm just saying for that movie, it's like I assume they gave them that timeline because they wanted to change the aesthetic of the house on the exterior. So
I'm
any exterior shots had to be done.
It was in around this time.
Right.
When did this come out? 81. So at this time, it was being used as a backdrop in The Incredible Hulk.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Shit, what was I gonna say?
Sorry.
Yeah, so sorry. Shit, now my mind's gone blank.
While you try to figure that.
So yeah, they just redid. We're using the house for something else, so they recycled this footage. Clearly, we all know it was a made-for-TV film at the time. I could not find a budget at all for this film, anywhere. If somebody does know a budget, please put it in our comments on YouTube or let us know through email, themonstercast@outlook.com, something like that.
Do you
let us
want
know.
Correct yourself from last week?
Oh yes, and last week I did say it had nothing to do with the Munsters, but
I know, but
last week I did say that Deadpool was made for $8 million. I meant 58 million, not 8 million. I listened back and I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. The costumes probably cost a bunch, so
yeah, just because they were, cheap and use the same exterior footage. I'm going in my head. I'm going to place this as the Halloween after that trip to England.
Okay.
So,
Which is sad because then that means that, Marilyn just broke it off with her guy that seemed like he was okay, minus
yeah,
the
the race car
psychotic
guy.
shit.
I mean,
Marilyn
maybe he
does
won a
have,
few races and got a giant head.
yeah. So Marilyn has a guy that comes into the house too at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
And he actually seemed like he was, semi okay with the family and shit. Like, you could tell he was like a little wigged out, but he was getting there. I mean, even Uncle Phantom broke his glasses, and he's like, I got another pair. It's fine. I'll be fine. We never see that guy again in this movie after they get arrested.
Well, don't forget, she also had another guy in the wax museum.
Yeah.
He's like, boy,
well, he dipped. He dipped right away.
You wouldn't want to run into these things in the dark. He's like, meet my family.
Right.
Oh, I have to go.
Yeah.
I left that thing over.
What was that?
I gotta unleash.
Uh-oh.
What was that?
What was that? You cut out for me.
I don't know.
Okay.
Some kind of glitch just happened here.
The glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah, so in my head, I'm in a place this is not long after.
Okay. I'll go with that.
Yeah, let's see. The next thing I have in my notes is when he Frankenstein's out in the police department because of a bee after Marilyn just says he wouldn't hurt a fly. That was great. We got the return of the roar.
Yeah.
He's like beating his chest like we've seen in the show.
Yeah. And Ed's what? Who the hell is Ed? Fred's performance in this film was actually surprisingly pretty good. Me being that he didn't even want to do the film in the first place, so
yeah,
it's pretty cool that he got back into the character and did it for the fans. Of course, the big paycheck that he got too, that we find out about later down the road from his wife. Not big paycheck, but like a random absurd amount that they were like, okay, which is surprising because it's a made-for-TV film. So I'm wondering maybe his number wasn't too absurd for him at that time.
Yeah, maybe he was still, because he's still Yvonne and Al are good friends of his still, so he probably didn't want to
leave him out.
Yeah.
Take
money away from them.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so it just Marilyn had like 3 different dudes in this movie. Thankfully though, we didn't go back into the emotional damage transition of what happened to her in the last film, where the family just like, you clearly see the emotional damage that she's had. She seems to have more.
Quite sad.
Right. She seems in this film, she seems more in control of like what she's doing. Like she seems like she's just more in control. Like she knows that she's not ugly like the family says, but to the outside world, she's like pretty. It came off a little bit like that. Like she wasn't trying to be ashamed of her looks or hide anything and stuff like that. And I'm skipping ahead. I'm sorry. Let's go. Okay, so they get arrested. Because I was about to go into something else, but they get arrested, and they're in the prison. And you said the bee thing, and that's what gets them locked up, basically.
Oh yeah, that whole thing in the prison. I was so transfixed by it. I don't have any notes. My next note is I see why everyone hates Cousin Phantoms, and I don't remember what that was, but I'm sure it had to do with him singing and breaking shit. So
singing and breaking all the glass in the house.
Yeah. So my next thing is them escaping. So them in the prison. That was great.
They're in the jail. Herman's laying in the bed, and this new prisoner comes in, and he's like, "Come on, honky, I got the bottom bunk. Let's go." and Herman's not white, so he's not a honky. He's like green. greenish blue or something, whatever you want to consider it. Um, and then he's like, oh man, I didn't mean. I like you can have the bottom bunk. Like it's cool, we're cool.
And Herman is so nice to everyone in this scene. He's
Yeah,
like, "Oh, no, you can have it. We're not going to be here long."
right.
He's like, "Wait, these guys that you were the guys that destroyed the police station, right? From what I hear, you're going to be here forever."
Yeah,
And then the guard comes with the food, and he's like, "Oh, yay! What was it, like goose soup or something like that?" And the guy's like staring at Herman,
yeah.
fumbling with the key, and Herman's just like bends the bars. He's like, "Here, let me hold that for you while you get the door." And the guard's like, "Escape, escape." Herman's like, "No, wait a minute." He opens the door. He's like, "We're not trying to escape. I just want my food." Poor Herman. He doesn't. I thought that would come back towards the end, like his stomach was gonna shake a building or something, because he
Yeah.
complains about being hungry this entire
Well,
movie.
well, when they're in the prison too, like trying to break out, the other guy in there grabs the cop's gun, the officer's gun, and that's when the thing gets. Oh, and then Herman's like, no, 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 we're gonna close this. He grabs the gun. He tries handing it back to him, and Grandpa's like, "What are you doing, dumbass? Like that,
Get out of
we're
here!
trying to
Clear your
break
name.
out." So
Like, how can you
Grandpa's
clear
like,
your name if you're escaping? That's still a crime.
right, right. You're still pointing a gun at like, and then they eventually you see them come out of the police station with a stack full of guns. So they literally took all of their guns. I don't know how they got all these officers' guns when they only had one pistol in the first place. So I'm not sure.
I like how he just hands it to the police chief too. He's like, "Here, can you hold these for me? Don't worry, they're not loaded."
Yeah, yeah. So, which is funny. I was actually surprised. Why wouldn't they be loaded unless they empty them all?
Who knows?
Herman
It's probably
didn't
just
want
something
to.
I had to say for TV.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
but
surprised that Herman didn't do like some anti-gun thing or something like that, because it was the '80s. They would have started doing that shit then.
and then they steal the commissioner's car, not the commissioner, the chief's car,
Yep.
while the commissioner is right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're
This is
driving
the
away.
stupidest scene ever, by the way.
And yeah, his son notices them in the car and goes to try and stop them. And this
Mhm.
gave me so much anxiety watching this, because he hits every fucking car in the area. And the commissioner just looks at the chief like, "That's your kid?" He destroyed 3 police cars just trying to turn around.
Not yeah. He just destroys police cars. He hits some pedestrian cars, like smashes it, and then meanwhile you see Herman going through an intersection, or Grandpa
Avoiding everything.
avoiding
I
everything,
love this
and then his
line.
eyes are closed.
Did I hit anything? I was like, "No, I don't think so." He's like, "Good, I wasn't looking."
He's like, good, now I can open my eyes then. Yeah, it's awesome.
Is this car? Oh, I love how this comes back at the end with the son. He's so competent.
They really do make him seem like an idiot. He's supposed to, because he's supposed to be a criminal psychologist. Is that what they called him? Right?
I don't even remember.
I think it was like a criminal psychologist or something like that. And at that point, you're kind of like, shouldn't he be smarter? I mean, he also shouldn't be in the high speed car chase because he's not an actual officer of the law. I don't think they didn't really explain it very well. And then he's like, I gotta take these guys in, and I gotta do this, and I like, you are not your pay grade, sir. Like, please stop.
You're causing more damage than anyone else.
Yeah.
Which is
Yep.
true through this entire movie. He causes more damage than either of the family members.
Oh yeah, easily. Um, but Grandpa and Herman get away, and that's when like Herman starts saying, like, we get this like revelation throughout the show that every time Herman says something, Grandpa's like, "That's it. That's genius."
Herman's like, What did I say?" And something about, hey, we got to go back to the wax museum. Something fishy's going on there. There's, the wax things that look like us, and there's people doing things that look like us. That
Right.
doesn't seem right. And Herman's like, I don't remember saying that, but that's pretty smart of me.
Yeah. He's
Which is through this. It keeps happening through this entire movie where he somewhat says something where Grandpa's like, "Oh, I got it."
yeah. So then they find out what's going on at the wax museum, kind of.
Yeah, they get into a fight with their own robots,
Yeah.
and I got you got Grandpa jumping on the back of his and ripping out one of the wires, and he's like, "Herman, what are you doing? Just pull his wires out." As Herman's getting choked, he's like, "Tell him, not me." He's losing to his own double.
Makes sense. I'm still confused how the hell that his double got into that closet in the one thing at the beginning without. Yeah, he just like showed up. And I'm like, if he just showed up, like, why did he have to wait for the people there? He could just taken the damn suits anyways, and not even been caught.
And
That's
then
why we can't rely on robots, people.
Yeah, they take the place of their doubles, and we find out the bad guy who I have. Oh my God! It's Pizza Primo, who is a wrestler that makes pizza while he wrestles.
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
Oh man, this guy is doing hard Italian stereotype voice here,
and it comes and goes too.
It does.
It's so bad. Yeah. And his character confuses the shit out of me by the end. I'm like, wait, what? Where did that come from?
Something I skipped a note here, but there's like a cave woman, robot that Grandpa is freaky attracted to. He's like, even the ugly one there, I wouldn't mind taking a bite out of.
Dude, no. Okay, so they get them all in the van, all the robots, including Grandpa and Herman. Creepier. And it gets even creepier. And then I have the line written down. Where is it? Grandpa's like trying to talk to the girl robot. Quote, unquote,
yeah, he's using robot. His vampire seductive powers.
Yeah. And Herman's like, that woman is a robot. She can't talk. And Grandpa goes, I know, those are the best kinds.
But the way he delivers the line is so
cringe.
Creepy.
Like, yeah.
Like, Al is weird in this one.
Yeah, because it kind of like, in the last film that we saw, like, Grandpa was a little more cognitive of things that were going on. He didn't want to steal the money, so he was trying to be a little bit more righteous there. And then this one, it's like, no, we're taking the gun. We're gonna hold this place up at gunpoint to get out of here. We're gonna be, criminals on the run to clear our name, which that never works, by the way.
No, you still broke out of jail,
and
you broke a law. Even though you cleared your name of that one, you still got stuff to pay for.
Yeah. And then he's just like hitting on weird robots.
Yeah. This is around the time they find out that there's a pizza restaurant that's a front.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Pizza Primo, I'm telling you. Look him up.
Maybe that's where the wrestler got the character idea.
Who knows?
I've seen that wrestler. He's funny. He's funny.
I don't know if I put this in my notes or not, but is this around the time they go home or no?
Yeah, so they trying to sneak into the house, right? Through the tree?
Yeah, they try to get it because the cop's son is there. So they try to get into the second story window and it's locked. Mm-hmm. And Herman falls out of the tree and Lily's like, I know that that shake.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, because we talked about the exterior of the house. I wanted to say something that I was about to, and that's what I was going to talk about.
Yes.
The interior of the house, the entryway, completely different.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Completely different
They
entryway.
did a new set for this, which I mean, it's been 20 years, so they probably had to.
There are fans that build the same exact set still.
Yeah, but again, you're talking about a company that doesn't give a shit about its own properties. So,
And we didn't even get like we got several things of Spot's tail, but we didn't get the iconic Spot under the stairwell. I don't even think
no,
we
we
see the
did.
stairs. I don't think we
I
see a
can't
stairwell.
remember. I don't think so. We definitely don't get the sarcophagus because Marilyn has the phone in the living room at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's yeah.
And the town has grown a lot more, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's pretty normal. I don't know. Time hasn't passed that much for these family, but yeah.
Either that or Eddie just ages very slowly. Like his age is there, but maybe he's like what were they the Grogu's?
Grogu's.
Yoda's. Like he's 50 years old but still looks like a baby.
Maybe. Who knows?
Or
It was a
maybe-
weird
oh.
choice not to let him get older.
Maybe Grandpa uses the potion on him every so often.
It turns it back to a kid. Oh no, that's dark. I don't think Lily would stand for that, but that wouldn't stop him.
Oh,
That's
dude,
dark.
can we talk about this potion real quick, or do you want to wait till we get
No.
there? Because I have some things.
Yeah, sure, if you want to.
Oh, let's go through. We'll get to it when we get to Transylvania. How about that? All right. So,
Yeah. That's gonna be a good one.
yeah. So they're in the van.
My next note is when
Women
they
can't
get
talk. Basically, is what he says.
the
Anyways, sorry.
jobs. Yeah. So whatever you got between then,
For what? For what part?
when they get the job at the pizzeria.
Okay. So let me check my notes here real quick. I apologize. I'm trying to keep noise going so it's not dead space for everybody listening. This is
He doesn't like to edit out dead space. Dead air. It's dead air, not dead space.
Couldn't find a budget. So there's a part here where the cop is actually at the Munster mansion or Munster house, whatever you want to call it. And Lily is like, "Oh, it's so nice that you want to, help find our dear Herman and Grandpa," and and fucking hell, I'm sorry, the look that Eddie gives Marilyn, and he's like, "I wonder why that is, Marilyn," and like he knows why the dude is there. Like he's like, this guy wants some of that succubus right now, like
Alleged
succubus. So which makes me wonder, does Eddie actually know that Marilyn is beautiful outside of their family, because he's just like
probably among normal people more than anyone else. So
right. So when he said that, and just the look the actor gives on his face, I was like, that's awesome. And then like Marilyn's just like, shut up. Like she does, like you said, she acts like she could be a Marsha Brady type character almost in this. It seems in that scene as well, it also seems like she does know why the guy's there. Like she's like, yeah, that's right.
Oh, throughout the entire movie, she's like that. She's like, I know you're into me, but I don't know if I like you.
Yeah, she's a lot more confident in this film, it's nice to see the confidence in Marilyn like that again, because that last movie just made me feel really bad for the emotional damage. I can't get over that stuff.
No, they made it so obvious.
It was so hard.
Like front and center of her story too.
At least this one wasn't centered around her. It still had a love interest for her, but it wasn't centered around it. They didn't focus on that as a main focal point like in the last film, which was cool. They didn't do as many throwbacks in this one as the first film. Yeah. But like they added in like the Spot thing. Like if you didn't watch the animated one, you wouldn't have recognized the Spot playing with Herman the checkers and stuff like that. Uh, oh, jeez.
Oh, someone's getting an Amber Alert.
Yep.
Um,
Okay.
well, if you're hearing this and you have any info about that in the Florida area, call it in.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah.
It's a 72-year-old male with dementia missing. If you hear about that, guys, please contact the authorities.
Yeah, that was my wife's grandpa was that way. So,
And I'm gonna leave.
no,
that
I'm not
in
kidding.
Too, by
He
the
went
way.
missing twice.
Yeah.
There was a billboard about him.
Kind of like Herman has gone missing before in the show, in the actual
many
show.
times.
Many times.
By his own will half the time, too. He just wanders off and doesn't come home.
He doesn't know where he's going. Yeah, so I had that part with Eddie and the guy. Marilyn seems more in control than the last film. So before we dive into the other stuff, because the next thing is also the job and all that. The change with Eddie, the actor. What did you think about it, real quick? I'm curious because I have a thought on it.
Underutilized. I barely have any notes on him at all. Same with Lily, for that matter. I was gonna bring that up in our afterthoughts, but like this movie really focused on Al and Fred, and then it seemed like Marilyn was the second most important. Those two were the top. Then it was Marilyn, and then the rest of the family.
I think because Uncle Phantom got more screen time than Eddie did. Period. Got more lines, got everything, but with this minimal amount of time, like you said, there wasn't a whole lot of screen time for the new Eddie, as we'll say.
Yeah.
To where it really mattered, honestly. Like, there's a lot of the stuff you could have just cut out with that one if you didn't want him there. It was nice to have him as in, showing that the family was still together and everything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as, the actor and stuff, I thought he did pretty good. Like when he's in the wax museum at the beginning, like some of the things he says, the way he puts a little tang onto the words. I was like, oh yeah, I could see Butch saying the exact same thing the same way and everything like that. We didn't get a pop though. No pop. So, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was all right. But like I said, we really didn't get enough time for me to make much of a judgment.
Right.
It's pretty much just I recognized him from the sitcom he's going to be in very soon.
Yeah.
And that kind of took away from anything else. So
yeah, I can see that. Yeah, other than I just didn't have any real feelings about the switch, honestly, because he was just so underutilized and didn't really have a lot going on. So, yeah, so we can move on into the job.
All right. So, yeah, did you expect that they would get a job at a pizzeria as women?
Yes and no.
I could say that I didn't think this was going to happen.
I think it was in the trailer.
Yeah, I didn't watch the trailer to this one.
Okay. I had the trailer. Trailer will be on our YouTube channel by the time this drops. So go over and check out the trailer.
But I didn't.
So yeah. No, but I did know this. They're both dressed in waitress outfits. And they remind me a lot of Lucy and Ethel from I Love Lucy. Because I swear Lucy and Ethel wore almost the exact same outfit back in the day. And I Love Lucy.
It could have been.
You're not a Lucy fan, so.
I don't mind a Lucy.
No? Well, there was another one then that you weren't a fan of. Okay.
Honeymooners.
Bam,
I can't get
straight to the moon.
Yeah. There's no denying it was funny at the time. It's just now new context. It's
Wait, what? What's the context?
like knowing what he's talking about as an adult and not so much a kid watching TV Land.
Well, just don't do it as an adult and you'll be fine.
Well, no one should do it, period. But yeah. I love that so there's a part we missed with two cops that catch them, and I forget, it was like two cops. They ask them for a ride or something, or steal their cop car, and then they come into the diner, and Herman's like, "Oh, they're gonna recognize me," so he hides his face with a cake.
He puts a pizza, so he has to take these pizzas to the cops, and our officers. I don't think
I forget the first encounter between them, but
so he puts a pizza in his hand, puts a pizza on his head, and then has the cake in front of his face. And he hands the pizzas away. He's like, "Oh, I hope you like a little bit of hair in your cheese for the one that was on his head." I was just like, "What?
You're wearing a hairnet."
Yeah, there was a lot of like stale moments in this movie.
Yeah,
to be honest, like after the very beginning started, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be like boom, 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 boom." No, it kind of got. There was a lot of slow parts, unfortunately.
One thing we haven't mentioned is that Herman wants to clear his name because it's nearing Halloween, and that is the time that the Munsters get. It's basically their Thanksgiving and Christmas rolled into one.
Mm-hmm.
Like the entire Munster clan or Dracula show up at the house, and they celebrate together with the giant hanging tree, I think Lily calls it.
Yep.
And so Herman wants to clear his name so that he could be able to enjoy that with the rest of the family. And that's something we haven't said yet, but it's going to come into play here very soon.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to this diner, the guy's like, "What kind of cake is that?" He's like, "Chocolate." And so he goes to cut a piece.
He doesn't even say chocolate. He says, "The kind you won't like."
That's so he cuts a piece and reveals Herman's eye, and he's like, "Do I know you?" And Herman's, "What kind of girl do you take me for?"
Yeah. Stop trying. You're trying to use that shitty line on me, basically.
He makes the cops feel so uncomfortable that they leave.
Yeah. It's like, "Oh no, I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean it like, you know."
There's also two drunk people who must have been partying all night because they're there having breakfast, still drunk. It's
the truck
daylight.
Drivers.
Oh, that's not good. Don't be drunk and drive a truck.
I didn't get that they were drunk.
Oh, the one guy is very much drunk. The one into Grandpa.
Are you sure they're drunk?
Dude, that is the stereotypical drunk. He's slurring his words.
I don't know. I guess I just didn't get drunk from the way they were acting. I just thought they were being
The
dicks.
one is definitely. Yeah, he's hitting on Grandpa and stuff. And when they they're spying on the pizza guy. I don't know this guy's name. I don't think they ever said it, but
no.
He's probably the guy known as Shorty in the cast list. Grandpa's like spying on him, and he's doing a real good job about it. He's clearing up this table, watching over his shoulder, very obvious, but
yep.
And then after he's like, "So I gotta run, lady." The guy doesn't look at Herman or Grandpa once. This entire scene, he doesn't look at them at all. If he would have, he probably would have recognized some of his wax figures. But
yeah.
So he runs off, and they're like, "We got to go chase him." And at that moment, the cop's son comes in, and this is where the guy I'm telling you is drunk comes in. This guy harassing you to Grandpa, and Herman's like, "Oh no, actually, he's very." And Grandpa's like, Yes,
he is.
Get him. And so the two guys beat the crap out of the chief's son.
Yeah.
As Herman and Grandpa run away.
Yeah, it's funny. I have in my notes too that Al dressed in the waitress outfit, like with the extra makeup on and stuff, to look like a woman. He reminds me of a lot of these older women that I used to be around in my childhood in West Virginia. So, and so he literally looked like, a Southern older lady, diner waitress chick. And I was just like, that's really freaky.
I don't remember when this happens in my notes, but Grandpa starts shouting. Oh, that's what it is. They get thrown in the back seat of the chief's son's car at some point, and Grandpa just starts.
Yeah, so
it turns into a bat.
After they leave the diner, they go back to the wax museum.
Yeah. Oh no, this is where they're trying to get to the airport, and the guy won't let him.
Oh yeah.
Because they want to go to Transylvania.
No. Okay, so we missed a part though.
Did we?
The family actually talks the son into going and telling his dad, "Hey, there's a lab at the wax museum." The cops all go to the wax museum and shit like that. And then they realize, they did the switcheroo like they did in like all the movies back in the 80s, where, oh no, they get there and the lab's not there, it's gone, it's kaput. Later we find out that the walls just rotate apparently to make it look like an office.
Oh yeah.
So then the cops leave there, they're not in there. That's why
how did they change the middle? I feel like they threw up like one of those Looney Tune like things.
Well, they show later
the cops didn't walk into the room. I know the ones on the wall did, but how do you hide that shit in the middle?
I have no idea.
That's why I have a feeling they just threw up like one of those giant pictures and hoped no one would walk down the stairs and look.
Just put up a drop cloth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but after that, that's when the son is just annoyed and embarrassed and pissed off and stuff like that.
Because the chief is like down his throat.
Yeah. But then eventually, they go back to the wax museum. Herman and Grandpa. They get down into the basement because they're standing out front, and then they're like, let's haul these dumb robots down to the lab and we'll fix them then. And they're talking about putting up with like 4,000 volts and shocking him with 4,000 volts because they shocked him with 2,000 earlier.
Yeah, that's right. I loved that scene too.
Yeah.
After they get shocked, the Grandpa's face is just fall over.
But
that's where they hear the plan about stealing from the mummy, and they're like, well, if we bring the mummy back to life, they can't steal from him.
Did you understand that entire plan?
No. Apparently, the Italian pizza guy
Diablo is like
an ancient Egyptian royalty who hasn't died.
That came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it did, which I mean, we know that the Grandpa and Lily are hundreds of years old, so I guess there can be
it's not
things out there that live that long. So.
Right.
He spends an awful lot of time describing his potty chair when he's young.
Yeah. Reading the inscription that's supposedly there. And oh my gosh, it just didn't make any sense to me. I was like, what about this guy says anything about ancient Egyptian at all? Nothing at all. Like, he's not even wearing any like extra fancy jewelry. No, I mean, I'm being stereotypical now, but it was the 80s. They should have done something like that, I mean, they whitewashed him anyway, so. I just didn't get it. I was like, wait, so he just wants to steal his stuff back, basically. That isn't his stuff because his mom gave it to his brother because his brother got married first.
Yeah, his younger brother. So that kind of breaks the line of succession.
This is why I'm like, this was supposed to be an animated episode. Like, there's no way. Like, this is some more of that Scooby-Doo shit.
Yeah.
I was just like, wait, you want to steal your stuff that's not your stuff because your mom gave your stuff to your brother centuries ago too, and now all of a sudden you're going to do it.
Yeah, well, he's
Like,
dead now. I want it back.
he's been dead though. Clearly, if he was mummified, mummatized, mummy's
I know that
alive,
was wrong, but I actually like the sound of
mummatized.
Oh yeah.
That sounds
So,
like a
yeah.
rock album.
So at some point after that they get arrested and thrown in the back of the car, and that's when Grandpa's like, "I'm gonna try this. I haven't done it in a long time, so I might
Yeah,
be rusty." Then he shouts, and the guy driving the car is like, "What the hell's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, that is the most accurate reaction to anything this family has done this entire movie."
yeah.
Because so the crazy guy in the back seat just starts shouting. Oh, and he turns into a bat, which for a
Yep.
long time we've seen him have to use pills to do
Yeah. Well,
for some reason.
because he's getting older, Tivis. You know, some
Yeah, he
men have to
can't
use a
bat up.
pill after a while when they get older to perform.
So they escape, go buy a plane ticket, and fly to Transylvania, where they're standing outside of. It's got to be Dracula's castle this time, right?
It
Because it's
has
Grandpa's.
looks like it.
As a flaming arrow hits a tree nearby, he's like, "Oh, Igor's still here."
Yeah.
Flaming arrow. It's another tree. It's like still defending the castle all these years. Another flaming arrow hits another tree. Herman's like, maybe we should walk up before his aim gets good.
Yeah. So this whole Transylvania thing is interesting. First of all, they get to Transylvania because they just get into some caskets and have them flown
Oh,
there
yeah, that's right.
and
They
scare
fly
the
by
shit
casket.
out of like one of the guys who's
Air
loathing
air
them.
traffic guys.
Yeah. Because they're like, oh, well, once you've seen a dead corpse, you've seen them all. So he peeks in. I was
That
like,
guy's got some weird shit. It should have been Grandpa the one he opened, but he opens Fred instead.
yeah.
Or Herman.
But by that logic, though, why do you need to see another one if once you've seen them all, once you've seen one, you've seen them all,
He's
right?
a weird that guy, he's gonna be in trouble with the cops. He's sneaking into graveyards late at night with a shovel. I guarantee that. Uh,
Is this Ed Gein?
but
Okay.
we meet Igor. Like this is the Igor, the one that helped Frankenstein. That makes me think that Igor the Bat was named after this guy, and that they're not the same character. Because they mention how
Yes.
he's been protecting the family,
Yeah.
the home.
Yeah. Which I'm assuming that's the character of Igor we're getting in Rob Zombie's film too.
Yeah, I think the same.
Um, which is cool. And we already know, like, I mean, shit, they use the name Charlie for everybody in
Yeah.
the show.
And there's no one in this castle. I want to assume it's because they all went to the Munsters' house, but also we find out that the village voted 19,000 to 1 to burn the castle and kill everyone inside, which is just Igor. He was the one vote against.
Yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious.
Um. Yeah. So they're just going. Ooh, why is my mic going like that? They were just going to burn the castle down, kill him,
So,
and it's okay because they're tired of all the black magic or witchcraft and stuff like that. Um. The
so
way that they portray this though is Igor not human? Is he not like a normal alive human?
I don't know what Igor
Because
is.
they as we find out later on, like, well, actually not much later on, we go up to the grandpa's lab completely packed up because Igor's like getting ready to just run away.
Yeah, and
He's
then
been
he
a
has a
loyal
heart attack.
family servant for hundreds of years, supposedly, is from what they're saying.
Yeah,
So that's why I'm like, there's no way he's just a normal human. And then Igor just dies.
he has a heart attack, and Grandpa couldn't be happier. Like,
Yeah.
Grandpa, you are such an asshole.
He's like, well, now we get to test out the potion
Yeah.
because, oh, we forgot to mention The reason they went to Transylvania is to get a potion that Grandpa had there that brings you back to life. Um,
Yeah.
why isn't this potion like I,
Well,
what?
apparently,
That doesn't seem like a potion you leave behind, you know?
as with all potions that Sam makes, though, this one has a weird side effect that he didn't take into account. It also de-ages you.
Well, shit, from what it sounds like is it made him just normal.
They later on in the movie they talk about how it makes people younger. So,
well, it makes you younger, but it also seemed like it just made Igor just normal.
I
He's like,
think
I'm
Igor
perfectly
mutated over
normal
the
now.
years because they extended his life longer than it should have.
Maybe.
Yeah, because after they bring him back and he's like young and like handsome looking,
Mm.
he yells out the window. He's like, "Hey, I voted with all of you. Let me grab my pitchfork or my torch."
They're in here. He goes. He's like, they're here. They're here.
Which, after seeing the short amount of time Grandpa has treated him, I don't blame him. Screw Grandpa, Igor. You're free.
Right. He's like, I'm free. I'm leaving. Sayonara, suckers. Basically, he does say that. He's like, later, suckers.
I did have a thought when he poured the potion into Igor's mouth that I'm like, is this going to become a bat? And that's how we get Igor the bat in the show? Like, is this actually a prequel? But
he didn't pour it into his mouth. He injects him with a needle.
Oh, that's right. It's a syringe.
It's a syringe. He just shoves it into him. I'm like, oh no. Yeah, so my note is them bringing Igor back to life. Does that mean he wasn't alive before because they made him truly alive? Does that also mean that Marilyn is more alive than any other people in the family because of her appearance? Because they also say that Igor looks even more hideous than Marilyn now.
Yes, they do say that.
So I'm curious, does that mean that Marilyn is just more alive?
And honestly, before Igor turned on them, in my notes, Igor is a rat bastard. I honestly thought he was going to continue to help them, and then Marilyn was going to fall for him instead of the cop. But no, that didn't work out.
That'd be weird, man.
It would be weird, but it wouldn't be outside this show.
It would be like Friends when Monica dated her dad's friend. That was just weird, man.
Hey, they're grown adults. They can make their own choices.
Not a few hundred years difference choices. No.
Why not?
No.
Lily is like 300 years older than
we don't
Herman.
know. This is Grandpa's potion, by the way, too. We don't know how long that's going to last. Pretty soon Igor's going to have like droopy old man balls again.
Oh, yeah. After this, they head back to America.
Speaking of, sorry. How come Marilyn never does try and get with somebody that's more like her family? It's always these like pretty looking boys. Why doesn't she try?
Maybe because everyone who looks like their family is part of the family.
You know, the Munsters, if they were made like in current time now, there would be like a Monsters dating app for them. Swipe left, swipe right.
So they go
Monsters
back.
Grinder.
Oh no. They just grind up the bones.
Oh God, don't say that.
You took us here. Just remember that.
I'm just always curious, like I want more from Marilyn. Marilyn would be a good character study, honestly, for people because of what we've seen her go through in all this stuff. And this is the last time we get to see the family as this iteration. Every iteration afterwards it's not supposed, as far as I know, isn't supposed to be the same from the 60s one.
Yeah,
it's like legit reboots.
The 80s is, but
well, yeah, the 80s, but I'm talking like for the movies that we have.
Yeah.
They're all supposed to be like a different Munster
iteration. Yeah. Well, But getting back to the movie, they head back to America, and we get another cut of them going back home, where Herman falls out of the same tree, and Lily recognizes that foot stomp. It's not a foot stomp. Your husband fell out of a tree again.
Yeah.
And during this scene, Spot does what me and potentially everyone else in the house wants someone to do, and that's shut cousin Phantom up.
Yeah, because isn't this when they're decorating the tree more?
No, that comes later.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, you're right. Yep, you're right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, every time he comes into the scene, he breaks something with his singing.
This is
every time.
But before they come back, Marilyn ends up going to the wax museum.
Yeah, that's where Marilyn's at, and
so they're decorating the tree at home. They go back and forth from this, and they put the glass bottles, a skull, and all that stuff on their tree. And Marilyn goes to the wax museum, and we see her seeing what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow she decides to dress up as the cave girl that Grandpa was hitting on.
Yeah.
And she gets caught.
Yeah, someone steps on her foot.
Yeah.
She makes a noise.
And then the Egyptian dude's like, someone in this room is not a robot.
No.
It's like, no shit. There's like 3 of you humans in there. Like, duh.
Yeah, and then he lifts the hair up. We see it's Marilyn, and she slaps him. And that's when
he gets
the cop
fresh with her. He gets fresh with her for a second, tries to touch her shoulder or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which she's come a long way from the last movie, because remember, she wouldn't even show her knees. She covered her knees up when she was getting out of the car in the last movie. And this one, she's full midriff.
This is kind of like a return to when the Beverly's last episode. Remember that, with that photographer that was hitting on her relentlessly, and she's like, "Leave me the fuck alone."
Yeah.
So it's kind of returned to that kind of attitude, Marilyn, and I'm here for it. But yeah, the cop shows up, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna trap you in this unbreakable glass jar. Have fun suffocating. Bye."
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
the cop showed up? It's funny. But then we go back to the house, and that's where Spot shuts Uncle or cousin
Phantom whatever
up, and then we get them coming into the house, be like, "Hey, where's everybody at?" Blah blah blah. Oh, Marilyn went to the wax museum. Wait, you told Marilyn went where? And then don't worry, that nice chief's son or whatever, police chief's son came by, and he went there too. And they're like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." And
Herman's like, "Yeah, he's a great guy," when he crashed into all those cars and then got beat up by those truck drivers, and then something else, or we handcuffed him to a steering wheel.
Grandpa smacks him. He's like, "Well, now we know why we should be worried about Marilyn."
Before this happens, though, I have in my note Grandpa is talking to Lily, and he's like, "Me and Herman have a date with a mummy," and she's like, "What?"
Yeah.
Her jealousy flares up. Instant, and that was great.
Yeah. So then Grandpa rushes off to go to the mummy, and Herman and Phantom rush off to the wax museum to check on Marilyn and the police guy. I don't remember his name.
Let me see if I have it here.
They get to the museum, and we see Marilyn and him in the glass tube, and they're pounding on
his name's Glenn.
Marilyn, Glenn, they're pounding on the glass, and you can't hear them.
Yeah, Herman's looking around.
They walk around, and then they come back over. Then the guy hits the glass with some metal that he had with him. A bullet.
I think he was using
not sure.
Nail,
something. I'm not sure. And that's when they can hear him. And Herman tries to lift the glass up, can't do it. Tries to break the glass, can't do it.
Which
And
they're inside
finally,
that should have really destroyed their eardrum. The
yeah, yeah. Remember, you're not supposed to tap a fish tank. And then finally, the whole gimmick that they've been doing throughout the movie comes back to play. In you know, it
well, two of them actually come back, because remember how they come up with this idea is Herman's walking away, going to talk to Grandpa. He's like, I wish Grandpa was here to tell me that I have one of those good ideas.
Yeah.
And that's when Phantom's like, I'll keep them occupied with my singing. And he blows out the glass light above. It wasn't a chandelier, but whatever that normal just light is. And Herman's like, I think I have one of Grandpa's great ideas. He says I have.
Yeah. And that's when the play of the glass breaking comes into play to break the tube of glass.
Which we should have seen. Every single scene in this film where Phantom shows up, he breaks glass.
Yeah.
Every scene.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the second that they showed up there, I was like, oh, that's why he's in this scene. He's going to break the glass.
Yeah.
I kind of assumed that's what the whole point of all of it was, and then I assumed he was just going to piss off afterwards because there'd be no point of him anymore.
No, unfortunately, he's still there.
No, he only comes back once at the very end. So they get out, and then they all like go to the.
He sings
museum.
so loud he passes out.
Yeah.
Don't forget that. And Herman's like, Phantom, take Marilyn home. Marilyn, take Phantom home.
And then they go off to the museum where
they're having a costume party.
Thing is going down. Grandpa's there. All the robots are there.
Did you notice the very opening scene? One of the people there is wearing the same exact clown mask that the Joker uses in the beginning of Dark Knight.
No, I did not know.
Oh, yeah, I'm telling you, it's the exact same mask. Go back and watch that scene.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. Grandpa, Herman finds Grandpa after talking to his robot at first, and they meet up and they talk about the plan. You know, hey, go stick the syringe in the mummy when we get a chance. Glenn shows up. His dad Harry's there with the commissioner. They're combing around. They steal the robots, and Marilyn shows back up in a witch's outfit, which I loved this scene. Like, she shows up, like, hey, how about we go back to my place? And he's like, no, I'm sorry. Not interested. And then it reveals it's her, and she's like, oh, like, Marilyn makes a great witch. Is she a witch?
So, real quick on that,
yes.
If it is the mask from that Dark Knight, it's also that mask that Joker wears in the Dark Knight is also the same mask that they used in the old Batman TV series.
Ooh.
So,
well, that makes me think it's the same mask. Well, not like similar looking, not the exact same one, but that makes me think it's that one even more.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. It's been a while since I watched The Dark Knight, but that was like one of the first few dates I went on with my wife.
All right. What was I? Where are we at? We're at the museum.
We're at the party where Marilyn shows up as a witch, and the cops have taken robot Herman and Grandpa. Did you notice when the cops are arresting the robots, the other one of the other robots is there with a drink, and he like throws it over his shoulder so that he doesn't have to drink it.
Yeah, it was
that was a nice touch.
It was the Loch Ness, or not the Loch Ness. Wow. It was like the creature. It was the creature, wasn't it?
I don't think it was. It was the one with like the giant eye that kind of resembles Igor, but not like a hunchback or something. Quasimodo, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the ugly looking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we get a second time where Grandpa turns into a bat. And he just runs off screen, and all you. "Ah!" It's so dumb, but I laughed every time.
Oh man.
And so
So
he
then,
goes,
yeah,
you know,
go
the
on.
syringe is the mummy, while everyone else is like, what's going on? What was it? I think Marilyn steals the remote control for the robots.
Yeah, Marilyn takes the computer, is what they call it.
Mhm.
She took the computer. Someone stole the computer. I'm like, that's not a computer, but okay, it's a remote. Okay.
Yeah.
Even back then, it would have just been a remote.
Uh,
And then
how
we
this
go.
resolves is just
It's just
so
crazy.
weird.
This
It's
this
weird.
it's crazy. And it's so they go over to, or the guy, the Egyptian dude, Diablo, we'll call him, goes over into the area where his
Dennis, as we
brothers.
find out his real name.
It goes over into the sarcophagus area and realizes the robots are just moving like robotic. They're not doing anything. They're just back and forth, back and forth. And
Yeah.
that's when we find out the remote was
What's going
stolen.
on? Yeah.
And then they just stop working. And
Yeah.
then the
Once again, he's like, "What's going on?" He's,
yeah,
"I told you it was stolen."
yeah. And the scientists all bolt. Like none of his lackeys stay
We
behind
didn't mention this, but the scientists like bicker this
throughout the
entire
whole.
movie, and I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
The one guy wants to repair all of them, and the other one's like, "Nah, let them act all weird and kooky. It's fine."
Right. It's normal. It looks more realistic.
They're not supposed to look
um,
realistic. They're robots.
and then he opens up his brother's tomb and is about to take the necklace, and then the mummy grabs him by the throat.
It's
And
me. It's your brother. Dennis. Don't do it.
yeah, it's your brother. So don't. And then the cops come in. Everybody comes in there and realizes it, and they're like, "Oh, what made you change your mind?" It's like, "Well, we realized the people that we arrested were actually robots."
Yeah.
Um, well, no, duh. You've been told that like 20 times.
And I think it's around this point where he's like, no, you don't understand. This is my stuff. See this potty? This is my potty. And he goes to read the inscription. It's a different inscription. He's like, I
This ain't
have
my
the wrong
potty.
mummy.
Yeah,
This isn't my brother.
yeah.
Son of a
Then Herman shows himself as the mummy.
Scooby Doo.
The mask. Um, and that's about it. We end, and
Grandpa's
then
like, well,
Grandpa's
what
like,
happened
"What?"
to the actual mummy? He's like, I think you gave him too much. And he points at a
A little toddler,
toddler
little
in the corner.
yeah, sitting on the potty chair.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Yeah, little baby Tut over there sitting on the potty chair in the corner, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then we go back to the house and stuff. I
Which
was surprised. Do you think that they? Do you think that they adopt the baby? The
I
family,
was wondering that too, because someone's got to take care of that kid.
right?
um, So this scene actually disappointed me. This end scene with the family,
Uh huh.
because we get no Gilbert, no Lester, no Charlie, and the Elvira that they mentioned is not the Elvira I was expecting. So I'm like, well, I don't know who any of these family members are, except for, oh, look, Phantom's back. Yay.
Right. Um.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Did you
I'm
expect to see Uncle Gilbert at all?
well. No, I thought that was just why they did the robot, to kind of give you the
Well, I figured that since they had the
throwback.
costume around.
You would think, but no. Um. And I didn't expect Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, to be there because she wasn't around till like the 90s, like early 90s.
Oh, really? I wasn't sure.
Not early 80s. Not that I remember. I think she was like created in. Let me see. Wait, hold on. Let me Google. Released September 30th, 1988.
So yeah, quite a few years after this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, that's her film.
Oh.
Wait, when was her show?
I don't know.
Show.
It's one of those characters I've always been aware of.
Oh, her show came out in 81, so
Okay.
maybe they just took the name.
Yeah, maybe.
Not sure.
Or a coincidence, sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on this was,
well, you gotta sell the ending first of all. Like they
Oh,
introduced
okay.
3 new characters instead of bringing back the ones that we knew. Of course, you have Elvira. You got a witch. The Bride of Frankenstein. Is that what that was supposed to be?
Or at least look like her. Yeah.
And then the other thing I think was supposed to be like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type thing.
Yeah.
So, and we get
after I saw the ones that we know and
them.
love weren't there, I kind of checked out.
So they get the diamond that's supposed to be a replica of one of the Tuts diamonds or something for doing whatever they did supposedly.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, who gets it because this happened? This person did this. This person did this. This person blah 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 blah. And then of course,
Lily's like, it looked like Lily was like, I get it, because she's like looking at it like, give me,
put that on a necklace. And then of course, cousin Phantom. Thank you. It's the stupidest thing. Cousin Phantom comes on in and is like, hey, and then he starts singing and busts the diamond into pieces. And then they're like, I got it. Everybody gets a piece.
Which it looks like they're giving to everyone in the party, which I'm pretty sure there's only enough for the 4 of them.
No, that busted in a bunch of little pieces.
Did it? I only saw like 4 pieces.
There's pieces that popped out of it even. But I was just like, oh, awesome. Cool. This is a throwback to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Everyone gets a piece. Here you go.
Yeah, I wasn't like, there's some really neat moments in this film, but overall, like the last one where they go to England was so much better. Even though they reused a lot of plots from the show, it just felt, I enjoyed it more.
Right. The 66 movie, I think is, it's a little more connected still to the show because it's not 20 years out.
Yeah.
It's like a few months out. This being 20 years out, and then with a change of Eddie and Marilyn again, you're kind of like, Lily doesn't get much screen time in this. It's more focused on Grandpa and Herman, which is supposedly what they thought the Munsters was always about, because every time you hear someone talk about the Munsters, it's always just about those
Grandpa
two.
and Herman. Most of the episodes of season 2 were about them.
Yeah, but we also had a lot more screen time for Marilyn and Lily.
Yeah, I like what they did with Marilyn in this one, especially after the last one.
Yeah. I like the introduction of new family members into the to the franchise. Actually showing new characters, not just giving names of them too, like with Uncle Phantom or Cousin Phantom or whatever. Or you get new things. You're adding on to the universe that's already there. They do a throwback to the animated, so they're including that in the universe, even though that in their timeline wouldn't have happened yet, even though it happened because Eddie was a teenager in that. So you're getting a lot more cool little things added into the universe. Mockingbird Heights is expanded more. Honestly, I don't even think they're in Mockingbird Heights the entire show, except for when they're at the house. I think everything else is in one of the bigger,
the nearby cities.
Yeah, the nearby city, wherever
they get the chimp from the pet store with Googie.
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting to see it in there. It's definitely interesting to see them in a setting that's in the 80s, because this clearly takes place in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see how it's affected when we get to Munsters Today, that takes place in the actual 80s.
Yeah.
This, you know, uh, I'm I it wasn't as good as the first movie. And of course people will be like, "Oh, it's a made-for-TV movie." I get that. There
That
was a lot
shouldn't.
of
When
it
it comes
shouldn't.
to enjoyment, there's a lot of made-for-TV movies that I like more than big
Yeah,
blockbusters. So
yeah.
it's
I mean, we've literally watched. We did a whole series on our other podcast where we watched almost all made-for-TV movies, um,
from Marvel,
for
and
Marvel
DC.
and DC. So, and some of those were pretty enjoyable. Some were
Yeah, a
on the
lot of
same
them were.
par as this. Honestly, this was kind of like about the same par. So I
Yeah.
guess,
I
give or
this is
take.
this felt like a middle of the road episode to me. Like there's so many
Yeah.
episodes of the show that I would put above this movie.
Oh, easily, easily.
Yeah.
Um, when I'm trying to think of the right way to say this so that it's understood. Um, with this movie, like, it just wasn't. If I was watching it as a fan of the Munsters back then, and like, oh, I grew up watching the Munsters in the '60s. I watched that movie. Oh my gosh, my childhood is back in the '70s because of this one little animated thing they did. This is making me so happy. And then you're like, oh my goodness, they're doing a movie in the '80s. I'm like in my 30s now, or probably about the 30s or so. Would be for the people who were kids growing up in the 60s watching this. And you'd be like, oh, I'm in my 30s now. I'm going to watch this. It's going to be so epic. It's like, they didn't talk like that. But still, it's like, oh, this is going to be so cool. And then you go and watch this, and you're kind of just like, it's got its moments.
Hmm.
I know we have different type of entertainment nowadays to where we're like, oh, it's whatever, and people will be like, oh, you're just a diva on it or something. I don't know, whatever, spoiled because of the entertainment we have nowadays. But
Yeah.
honestly, like, there were just so many slow points in this where it felt like they were dragging certain scenes out with nothing happening in them, to where they could cut them down. This could have
Yeah.
been easily an hour and 15-minute movie, if you would cut down some of these slow spots that just didn't really do anything. All it did was slow the pace down, and it kind of took away from the cool stuff that was going on. Like, you open up the movie in the wax museum, oh, it's cool, this is awesome. Then we get this quirky little thing that's happening, and you set the movie up. And that's awesome. It's really cool. I was like, okay, I can see this is going to be some fun stuff, man. And then you have a lot of slower spots in there. And then, of course, you bring in cousin Phantom, and every time he's on screen, you're just like, please don't sing. Please don't sing. Please don't. Oh, he's sang. uh, obsessively. I would have to go back and rewatch like one of the Phantom of the Operas, but I do not remember the Phantom being so damn annoying. uh, but as far as my take on this film, I mean, it was okay. Not top tier Munsters by far. It had some moments. It had some cool elements. I did like, I would hope to think that's paying homage to I Love Lucy when they dressed in the waitress outfits. It just seems like something Lucille Ball would have done on her show. I believe they did on the show too. One with the red hair, with the blonde hair, shit like that. So, and I don't know, man. It just didn't pop to me like the other one did. The other one, of course, coming off the show, you see all the other show elements in it. This one
Yeah.
had some elements, it just was lacking in certain areas. And I really wanted to see, since we were getting a new Eddie, if this potentially was going to lead into like a revival, maybe. I don't know what their plans were, if they had that in focus or whatnot, because not
Yeah, I'd be
sure.
curious how long after this they came up with the idea of Munsters Today.
Right, because the Munsters Today came out in what, late 80s, right?
I think it was mid 80s.
Mid
I want to
80s.
say
80,
86, 87.
87.
Yeah.
87. So 5-6 years later, Munsters Today came out. So I'm curious if potentially this was supposed to work its way into being a revival for them and coming back. And if it was, I would have liked to have seen more with Eddie.
Yeah.
Marilyn was awesome. I didn't feel bad for her in this movie. She seemed like she was more in control. She got a lot more part in this
honestly,
film than just an object.
Just looking at Marilyn, this probably the best Marilyn story we've gotten.
As far as like with love interest stuff?
Just in general. Usually she's like a background character, sidekick to Lily, or boyfriend problems.
Right. In this one, she took charge. She was doing things by herself too. And then you had the guy who thought he was trying to be the white knight, just failing, and she was still winning. So I mean, maybe it was just too ahead of its time for the 80s for people, I guess, with Marilyn.
Maybe. You ready for some trivia, or you got?
Yeah, let's dive into some trivia, man. I'm sorry.
All right. So Fred told the producers that Carl Silva and Abe Haberman needed to be brought back. They were the makeup artists for the original show, and he wanted to keep that vintage Munsters look for this movie. Fred only accepted the role after his wife suggested he counter with a large payout, and they matched it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I already talked about the exterior of the house. CBS counter programmed against this movie with The Wizard of Oz. Those assholes.
Like they aired The Wizard of Oz with this?
Yeah, they aired The Wizard of Oz on their station at the exact same time that this was premiering. Which, if you don't know, The Wizard of Oz has this freaky anomaly of having the most viewers at any time they air it, even to this day.
Okay.
So, yeah, they sabotaged this film from the get-go, and it way underperformed.
Yeah.
Vic Mizzy, who worked on the music for this, was asked to compose the score of the original show, but was already approached for the Addams Family and declined as it would be a conflict of interest. In 2004, he told the Archive of American Television that he only agreed to do this film because the guy, quote, the guy who wrote it liked me, and called it, quote, a throwaway, strictly a fee. So,
okay.
Yeah, high praise there from the music guy. The Chaney family has many references in this show. Now, if you don't know them, Lon Chaney previously played Quasimodo in the 1923 Hunchback of Notre Dame and Phantom of the Opera in the 1925 Phantom of the Opera.
Mm-hmm.
And his son, Lon Chaney Jr., played the Wolfman in multiple films, starting with the 1941 The Wolfman.
Yeah.
So they have a long history with Universal Monsters.
Lon Chaney is a huge name in film history in general. And like one that if you're talking about horror in general, if you don't say his name, then you're just being a disgrace to it. Like, honestly, like, same with Bela Lugosi and shit like that. Like, there's so many great actors back then that when I hear people talking about horror, like I did a live stream a few weeks back on someone else's show, and we were talking. Huh?
What was the name of the show?
You don't put me on the spot like that, man.
Well, I was gonna plug them so they could go
I think
find
it's
it.
just called the Mighty Quinn Podcast, is what it. I think the name of it is, but he only streamed it on to Facebook, so that's the only way you can watch it. But like it was about horror, and I was like, look, if we're gonna talk horror, and I mentioned like so many of the greats, like, and I even said Lon Chaney and shit like that in there, because I was like, there's no way we can start this conversation without at least mentioning their names. Because a lot of people nowadays, when they think horror, they totally forget about the Universal Monsters stuff. So I'm just like, I don't know, man.
It is available on YouTube. The Mighty Quinn, streamed live August 28th. So it's got Mike and Chris Hoffman.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you. It's been a while. I was like, I talked too much on that one. I haven't been invited back because I talked too much on that one.
So yeah, no, that's really cool, and I like that they kind of paid a little tribute to that family as well.
Yeah, definitely.
This will. Oh, you got more?
Oh, go on. No, go on.
Well, this will be the final film or a final movie directed by Don Weis, who continued to work on television after this. Several Don Post masks were used in the Wax Museum. Don Post made incredibly popular masks in the 80s and 90s and was even used in John Carpenter's Halloween 3. Today, these masks are extremely rare to find.
Okay.
So, and my final one, Bob Hastings has gone on record saying that he had a blast playing Cousin Phantom, but the makeup chair was taxing. He loved nothing more than going backstage between his scenes, acting silly, and occasionally sneaking up and scaring people. Which is awesome.
That's pretty cool. Oh,
yeah.
Man. Yeah, like I said, like if you go back and look at some of the original Phantom of the Opera images of the Phantom there, the makeup job did pretty good for getting it to look almost exactly like that.
They've always been really good with the makeup on these.
Yeah. So it looked like the original, but it still just looked like shit. Especially when everything else is in color too. And you're just like, oh no, I can see like the latex line and stuff. It's one of the bad things is like if I will let people know this, especially for people who like to watch these things. If they put this out in 4K, don't buy it. It's a waste of your money. The best you're going to get is a Blu-ray version of it at most. Once you get into the 4K, there's no point. In something this old, there's just no point. You know, especially with Universal, and we all know how they treat the Munsters. They probably wouldn't do it great anyways. It'd probably
just
be
the
a VHS
Munsters,
copy.
how they treat their properties in general. Like even the Universal monsters that they use to create these characters, they don't do a good job with them. I mean, just look at that really crappy thing they tried to do twice with the Dark Universe. They don't care. They want to make money. That's all they want.
I thought they were doing something now though with Blumhouse. I want to say,
maybe
because they did the Invisible Man with them, and that one came out good, but it was more modern. It wasn't the same telling of the story. I
will say, if you want to see a part of Universal where people who care about these properties are doing stuff with them, when it opens, go check out the Universal Monsters area of Universal in Florida. Like the people that do stuff there, they do the Halloween horror and stuff. They care. They put a lot of love and attention into these characters that, you know, they like, but these producers just toss around like they're nothing.
Yeah. Do you got any last words for this, man?
We're running pretty long on this one, but next week, Mike, do you know what next week is?
Well, I know what's coming out like a day after this podcast drops, but for next week's episode, I definitely know what next week is.
Well, it is our 1-year anniversary, and what better way to celebrate it than with the new Rob Zombie Munster movie?
Yes. Next week, Rob Zombie's The Munsters will be released September 27th, 2022 on both Netflix and Blu-ray, everybody. If you have not
If you're listening to this, it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow, which is September 27th. That's why I said just the date. Um,
Yeah. I'm
which
talking
I
about the
saw,
week after this, the next episode.
Yeah, I saw on Facebook some Walmarts put the movie out on the floor already.
They're breaking street date again. They haven't been in trouble enough.
Yeah.
Walmart and Amazon
and just so
do
people
this.
understands the dates in question, it would be roughly 4 days before it's actually released from when we're recording that I've seen people with it out in there.
Mm-hmm.
I already pre-ordered it on Amazon, so I'll have it tomorrow when this comes out.
I am looking forward to devouring it.
Yeah.
I'll probably watch it a couple times before we talk about it. So
yeah. So that will be next week, guys, and you can definitely look out for that. Hopefully we have at least 2 guests, I believe, coming on with that. So we're going to talk about it. And like Tivis said, it is our 1-year anniversary of doing the podcast, releasing the episodes and stuff like that for you guys.
Actual anniversary will be, again, the day after the episode comes out, but it's close enough.
Yeah. Yeah. We dropped our first episode October 4th, 2021. And next week, October 3rd, 2022, will be our what we're calling the anniversary episode with Rob Zombie's The Munsters. And hopefully everybody sticks around after we do Rob Zombie's The Munsters with us, because we have a lot more Munsters content to devour.
Oh yeah, we got 2 more movies, a failed pilot, and then another show.
Yeah. And I'm sure there might be more by the time we're finished. If we're all lucky.
Fingers crossed.
Come on, Universal, give us some more stuff, even if it's an animated. And for this week's movie recommendation, I want to recommend Humanoids of the Deep. Do not watch this with your kids if you have kids. This is
kind of got that from the cover.
A more of a I don't want to say adult version of the movie, but more of an adult version of the movie. So if you want to dive on into that, definitely go into that and see.
I don't know what happened. I hit a button on my keyboard.
It's all good. It is done from Roger Corman, so if anyone's ever familiar with Roger Corman's work, definitely do that. Humanoids of the Deep is like Roger Corman's version of Creature from the Black Lagoon, almost. So there's the connection with the Munsterverse. And it was one I had on my shelf, so I decided to share it with everybody today. Definitely check that out, Humanoids from the Deep. And with that, Tivis, you got any final words for us today, my man?
Thank you for being with us over the past year. I'm so excited the movie is finally here. Be sure to check it out on Netflix tomorrow. Bump those numbers up, and hopefully we can get some more, if not the content that they have refused to give us.
Awesome, man. Well, with that said, guys, thank you very much. And don't forget to check out themunstercast.com for all of the Munstercast stuff, extra stuff, and all that other crappy stuff. Don't forget to also email us at themunstercast@outlook.com for any questions, concerns, or if you just want to be on the show or just talk to us. All right, guys. Thank you very much, and we will catch you next time as we take another stroll down 1313 Mockingbird Lane.
The lesson I want you to learn is it doesn't matter what you look like. You can be tall or short, or fat or thin, or ugly, or handsome.